And could people move forward? Arthur, Sydney, Edwin. And for those who don't know, I'm Saul Scheinfeld. I was hoodwinked into being the MC. And I want to welcome you all to the 50th reunion of the class of 1963. And thank you all the classmates and family members for coming. And a special welcome to Mrs. Adina Bernstein, who is our teacher, and to Rabbi Yoshua Box, who is our teacher and our assistant principal. We thank you both for coming. I also should remember two classmates who unfortunately died during the past year and can't be with us. Those are Ruth Waller Spivak and Murray Singer, Aleichem Hashalom, who passed away last year. The memory of their smiles keeps them with us always. They had different kinds of smiles, if you remember them, but both were beautiful. Please take a moment at home when you go home with the beautiful journals that were prepared to read their biographies, which Tehillah managed to get from family members. Sadly, we were unable to find definitive information on the sweet Sam Mandel, who experienced some abuse at our hands. It was rumored that he passed away in Israel many years ago, but we don't know for sure. So wherever you are, Sam, we ask your Mechillah, and we regret that you could not be here with us today. So many of us are children of immigrants and Holocaust survivors. I learned that from reading many of the answers to the questionnaire, something I didn't know when I was a student here. I urge you to read Sylvia Israel's heartrending essay, which was submitted late and is folded into the journal. It's entitled, "There Was a Life," about the effects on and the coping mechanisms of children of survivors. As you can see, despite some changes, this is the original shul. Up there was a small office where our school psychologist, Dr. Shapiro, used to administer the Rorschach ink blot tests, which, as I recall, for some reason contained many dirty pictures. There have been many changes made upstairs by YU since they acquired the building, and perhaps we'll have the time before we leave to take a quick look around the building. But we're not allowed on the 5th floor fire escape. In case anybody brought paper airplanes or chair parts. My next privilege is to introduce our classmate Gordon Tucker, now a prominent conservative rabbi and professor, who will say a few words. Gordon, who has recently returned from vacation, has agreed to give a Greek invocation at this convocation. As part of Gordon's vocation, he has written papers in response on many important topics, including the history of patrilineal descent and the Jewish view on homosexuality. He has also done a monumental job in co-translating and editing of Abraham Joshua Heschel's masterwork, Torah Mina Shamayim, which is called in translation Heavenly Torah, which emphasizes the study of Agada and Midrash, and in which the conflicting outlooks of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael are examined. Aside from his many achievements, Gordon, at 6 feet 4 inches tall, is closer to heaven than the rest of us, and so it is fitting that he give the invocation today. Gordon.
Yeah, that's what I hear every week. Is this, can you hear me? I often joke, because I have a good projection of my voice, so I actually can do without a microphone. I often joke that I could have been an Orthodox rabbi. Am I right that this is a lot brighter than it used to be in this space? What? It's amazing. I mean, it used to be, it had a kind of solemnity to it, but it also was it was dingy. Now it's bright. So this is making me think of, when is it now? 7 years ago was my 35th college reunion. Probably most of you had a 35th college reunion 7 years ago. Maybe you were off in Israel for a year and it was a year off, but we've most of us, or all of us, been through that. And I knew something was a little different about that one. Not to continue the somber theme too much, when the first mailing went out about that reunion, and it was the first one in which it said that widows and widowers of classmates would be welcome. And we knew that there was something a little different about this. It was a different time of life. And then it was driven home to me when one of my classmates, who was involved in organizing various workshops, got in touch with me and asked if I would agree to lead a workshop on growing old gracefully. That was a real kick, you can imagine. But the really stirring thing about that reunion, and those of you who've been to college reunions know that nowadays they usually do big questionnaires, and they'll compile the results, and you'll even have a session at the reunion that goes over some of the answers to these questions. And here's what my college classmates had to say after their 35th reunion, or in preparation for it, to the following questions. What has been your most gratifying experience in life? And the answers clustered around several things. They were taking care of my mother in her old age, seeing my sons become men with good hearts, and having made, however modestly, some positive change in some people's lives. When the question was asked, what do you regret most in life? So the answers were things like, I regret most deciding that growing up meant spending less time with my parents and my family, or that the time with my children and spouse was now lost forever to the pursuit of money and success. And I regret most in life hurting people, especially those who cared about me along the way. When the question was, how have you fundamentally changed? So the answers were, I am learning to be less self-centered, more tolerant, less self-occupied, more humility, more compassion for myself and for others. And when asked what advice they had for classmates, they said, none of us is indispensable or irreplaceable to life on earth despite our illusions. Get over yourselves and get an inner life instead. Or realize that the envy part of life is pretty much over. And one of my favorites, your kids and grandkids are not going to love you because of your resume. So I was thinking then about all these extraordinary answers, and I realized that what they all have in common is a receding of the ego. And this, okay, it was inevitable. You got a rabbi up here. It brought a text off the page for me. It's a text that most of you know, maybe all of you know at least in part. We didn't learn it here because they wouldn't trust us with Masechet Nida here in Soloveitchik. But the text is about the unborn child who is compared to a tablet, a writing tablet that's all folded up. Its mouth is closed, its navel is open, the lamp is illuminated over its head, and it can see from one end of the world to the other. There are no better days than those days, it says. The entire Torah is taught to it. But once it begins breathing the world's air, what was once closed, the mouth, is now open. And what was once open, the navel, is now closed. And once it begins breathing the world's air, an angel comes and smacks it over the mouth and causes it to forget the Torah it learned. So this is describing a reality in which we're part of a whole. We're connected with everyone and everything. That's what the connection of the navel is. We're part of God. And this is what it's really describing, I think. Because we're all tablets, all folded up as if in our DNA. Our navels were once open because connection to everything else is really our ultimate state. It's what we are, what we're meant to be. Our mouths, on the other hand, were closed because the mouth represents the individual ego, individual appetites and desires and means of self-gratification. We could once see from one end of the world to the other because we instinctively knew that in that state, what we will later in life only try hard to learn and often fail, we instinctively knew once upon a time about the wholeness and the connectedness of everything. And that's what it means that all of Torah was taught to us. Not that we knew the Talmud or some other text better than we could ever imagine. We're taught Torah, teaching of life, and understanding what reality is all about, and all that we knew once. And then we're born, the mouth opens, the ego develops, because that's how individual life happens, and in the process of this self-differentiation, we forget all those things that we were supposed to know. But the angel actually makes us take an oath before we're allowed to be born, which is try to be righteous. Which means we're made to take an oath that we're going to try in our lives to recollect what birth makes us forget. That we'll spend our lives using our egos to contribute to connections in the world and not to self-aggrandizement. The oath is simply that we'll try to recollect the truth. So those classmates, and I hope to some extent and I believe to all extent, to a great extent, all of us, have learned that there is a direct proportion between the receding of the ego, the envy part of life, and the competition with other egos, a direct proportion between that and the receding of fear and unhappiness. One of those classmates expressed this growing realization in a compelling way by saying, we're approaching the foothills of wisdom. Just the foothills, the peaks of wisdom are where we're supposed to get, where we're heading again. Those peaks are where we are supposed to be in life and can be if we will relearn the truths that we were built to know. It shouldn't have to take a 50th reunion to make that happen. From all the things that we have read, I do have a sense, as I had with my college classmates, that there is greater happiness and less fear. That people have, in fact, experienced this wonderful receding of the ego. And I think we understand why RMS wasn't our womb. Why RMS was really the crucible in which we were working out those egos, because that's what you do in that age. And I think we've recognized over the years, and I believe it's true, that we depended on each other and loved each other more than we knew. And that maybe we can find a way to recapture that as well in the years that we have left. This, I know I'm speaking for everyone to say that Tehillah and Dina have given us a great, great blessing here. And I hope that it will contribute to even deeper happiness in the years ahead.